So what is Airsoft? This is my Pehca Kucha by Benjamin Gable, and Airsoft, in the most basic of terms, is just a hobby like RC cars or painting. People will buy replica firearms and go to fields and play games with them. And the most common misconception is that Airsoft is like Call of Duty in that you can be a lone wolf and you can do whatever you want and you'll just be this big hero and you don't have to follow any rules or anything like that, but really it's very thought out and methodical, and there is actually a very team-oriented aspect to it. As you can see in this picture as well, this is what Airsoft should be. Teams working together to complete an objective and staying in contact. This is when Airsoft gets really fun. Instead of a bunch of little children running around and doing whatever they want, disobeying rules, Airsoft is fun when played with a team. Now, new players often have this misconception that it's Call of Duty, like I said before, and there's unfortunately a slang term for children like this, and that is COD kiddies, meaning Call of Duty children. Most of the time, their gear consists of basic weaponry, like you see in the picture above my face, but not all children are like this, which is good. Most of the time, these children play in their backyards. This was actually how I started, and this is how most people start. New players will often buy cheaper guns from Walmart or slightly lesser guns from retailers and play games in their backyard with their friends. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as they keep in touch with their state laws and they're always on private property. Now, veterans, however, it's a different story. They are dedicated, and most of the time they have military or police backgrounds. And they use Airsoft as more of a practice for crossover training, and I'll get more into that in a bit. But veteran players play a different kind of Airsoft, which is called military simulation. And this is what Airsoft is meant to be. This is for hardcore players, where teams are always focused on an objective and they're working together and things run very smoothly. There is a chain of command, and sometimes even on big military simulation operations is what they're called. There are even vehicles such as Humvees and sometimes tanks. Oftentimes, veteran players and rookie players don't get along, and this is mainly the rookie player's fault, but it's also the veterans player's fault for not being more understanding. A lot of times we forget that we used to just be like the kids that we don't like nowadays. I am also, unfortunately, suspect to that, but let's get into the military aspect. As you can see in this picture, this is an actual picture of United States soldiers using airsoft guns to practice searching through buildings, and they do this because it is much safer and it's much cheaper to fire airsoft weapons than it is to fire real weapons. If you miss, you don't kill a guy. There are three types of airsoft guns: spring, electric, and gas, going from left to right. Spring is often reserved for lower-end airsoft guns, or sniper rifles and shotguns. Electric is pretty much in everything, and so is gas, but there are two different kinds of gas, and I'll get into that later. Spring works by pulling back a cocking mechanism, and once it is cocked, it will have put tension on a spring. Once you pull the trigger on any spring weapon, it will release that spring, which will cause air to get pushed through a barrel, like you can see in the picture. This will launch the projectile at around 400 feet per second. Electric guns work the same way, except it's all automated and electric, as you can probably imagine. A battery powers a motor, the motor turns the gears pull back a piston, which traps air inside the bronze cylinder. Once the piston is released, it forces all that air out down the barrel, releasing the projectile. And gas guns, finally, work again almost the same way, except there isn't really any springs. Gas is loaded into a magazine, and when that button on the back of the magazine is pushed by a trigger mechanism inside the weapon, it releases a burst of gas, which causes the action to slide back, loading the next round. Gas is often considered the most realistic. Now, there is another type of gas called HPA, and this stands for high pressure air. High pressure air is sort of a new trend, and one of the big names in it is Polar Star. So if you're ever interested to do research, check out Polar Star. But this gets closer to paintball, where people will often carry large tanks of this high pressure air and have it run into their gun. Now, I want to stress this again. Safety is always important. Always treat airsoft firearms like they are real firearms. You never want any accidents to happen because you can get kicked off of fields, and you can get arrested, or even worse, you can get fatally shot or injured. And unfortunately, it's happened. This boy's name is Tamir Rice, and last year he was fatally shot by a police officer. As soon as the police officer exited his vehicle, he shot Tamir Rice. Tamir Rice was later to be seen carrying a BB gun. Now, whether or not you believe it was police brutality or not, if he wouldn't have had the BB gun, he may still be alive. He was 12 years old. And now, a lot of people are giving airsoft a bad name, not only by keeping their weapons out and brandishing them, causing accidents like Tamir Rice, but also there is a reported drive-by shooting of airsoft guns on a college campus, or I'm sorry, a high school campus, and luckily the suspects have been caught. Unsafe habits you do not want to do. You never want to keep a weapon loaded at all times. Making them easily accessible to anyone except yourself is a bad idea. Pointing them at yourself or others while they are not aware or wearing eye protection, and treating airsoft weapons as toys is definitely a big no-no. All these things can be avoided if you're smart. Safe habits to have are to treat all weapons, real or fake, as if they are loaded. Never point your weapon at anything you don't want to shoot. Always carry your weapon in a case while you're in a public place and according to your state laws, and treat airsoft guns like real ones. And I know I just read all that, but it's important to keep these facts straight. And in conclusion, just have fun. It's a hobby, and that's exactly how it should be treated. It's a great and enjoyable hobby. I love doing it. I've been doing it for probably close to 6 years, and it's fun. It's exercise. You get to meet cool people. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys.